Here is the very important question. Some seems to have it. Some seems to struggle with it. Some seems to have a little bit of a test just to lose it, while some seems to be broke from it. What is it? Some seems to have it. Some seems to have a little of it. And some seems to have it all. Some just seems to have it and it always goes away. It does not stick with them. And you have some that are broke from it. Completely don't seem to have any possession of it. What is it? Of course, I think most of you will quickly think about money because I use the word broke at the end. But today, I want to talk about something that we often talk about it, but never talk about it. I like to play with words. But here, I want to talk about what love is. The broke love, as I call it. The other day, I was having a conversation with somebody and he said, love sucks, as he was telling me about his story. It's like, man, love sucks. And I said, what do you mean that love sucks? And he went on about telling his story, which was quite sad. We'll get into it later. But it just demonstrated that we have different words that we use to describe this thing that is supposed to be so beautiful. My name is Mshihiri, if we have never met, and I'm going to have fun in just bringing to you a different perspective of what love is. And then you can learn how that understanding affects each and every aspect of your life and how you can go about changing that in order to bring about the improvement that you need so that you can live a more meaningful and successful life. In fact, I am a firm believer is because we have misplaced the understanding of love. Not as much is being said in many other media and other places, but what really love is, it is the very cause of all of our ailment. We are suffering, struggling from experience life in a manner that we would have loved to, whether it's financially, socially, physically, emotionally, and all kinds of other places, simply because we do not have a clear understanding of this word. I personally have suffered severe consequences for failure to have an understanding. It's not about not having love. I've been happily married for 28 years now. And I'm continually enjoying each and every day. My relationship with my wife continues to be spicier, more meaningful and fulfilling in each and every manner. So I'm not talking about the relationship that maybe I don't have a relationship, maybe I messed it up in some form. It is not the question or the issue in question when I say that I have suffered severely for misunderstanding what love is. And for that failure, I paid a dear price. And so my family became the evidence, and they kind of suffer along with me because I did not know how to use love the way it meant to in order to benefit from all areas of our lives. I knew how to use love the best way I knew through my relationship with my wife and my kids. And that's why I have been happily married for 28 years. But guess what? I didn't know how to use it in life and what it truly means and how that could have affected the outcome of certain events in my life if I had that understanding. What am I talking about here? Simple. A few years ago, I found myself in a place that I will not even call or send my worst enemy if I have one. I don't have one, but if I had, I wouldn't send one there. I found myself presented against the law, indicted for events that I didn't even know that, not that I didn't know the events, I didn't know if it meant something wrong because it was business as usual. I had a business that was thriving and there were all kinds of transactions that at those days they used to call creative financing. And as a result of those creative financing, I partook in some of them, but they were promoted through media. And we had people come and teach us how to do these creative financing from the lenders who were giving us money. But anyway, it doesn't mean just because somebody taught you. It is the good thing, as I learned later, that was against the law. And not knowing, my lawyer's telling me, we got a great case here, let's fight it. And we went and fought, lost it, went to prison. And that's why I said, because I didn't know love, I suffer severely the consequences of that ignorance. And today, most of you are going through life a victim. I don't like to use the word victim in my understanding, but you're suffering, struggling, in pain because you do not know the word itself, the rules behind it, and how can you play it so that you can be among those who have it. It is not fun to be not just having it, a little bit of it, or some of it, or is also broke from it. It is not a fun life. It is always beautiful to be with full of it. And it is freely given because it is all in you. Once we understand that, it changes the perspective of our relationship with ourselves, with money, with others, with our children, with our colleagues, with our peers, with our friends, everything else changes. Because suddenly you have the key that governs each and every aspect of our life. You can go and look for money, but I'm telling you, if you understand what love is, as I'm going to go and break it down for you, it will be much easier to find that love, to find the money you're looking for, to find the lifestyle you're looking for, to find the health you are seeking after, to find the love in terms of romantic relationship you aspire to enjoy. But for most of you, I want to just be honest up front. I'm going to share this from the scripture point of view, but I'm not going to give you traditional scriptures you have come to know or they have offended you. And if you feel any other expansion of the scriptures will offend you, I just want to give you a heads up. And if you choose to continue to watch it, it's because you're interested in the topic, because it's going to add value in your life. Be open-minded, be willing to listen, and make the judgment thereafter, not before. Let's begin. Actually, so I'm going to be reading here as I'm not checking my text message. I'm not reading anything else. It's just I want to remember some of the things, some of the point I put it forth. So you'll see me sometimes going down here. Don't be offended. I'm not doing anything against. I'm just kind of referring to make sure that I get all the pieces that I want to have conversation, I want to talk about. So often when we find ourselves in circumstances, love has been used in so many ways. Oh, he doesn't love, or they don't love this. And we've used it lightly. And it's okay. I'm not here to say people should take this word love so serious. No, I'm actually talking about how to use it in a way that it can help you. The scripture that to me I love the most, that I think they call is the holy grail of what love, the importance and the value of love and where it needs to begin. It is this very scripture. And you'll be surprised because most of you have read many about the love in the scriptures, but I want to bring you back to a place where it was spoken in a much more simpler way. In Mark 12:31, there's a number of statements there, but the one that I'm very keen about is the one where it says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Of course, it goes back and say, I say, bearing in mind, and I say this to bear in mind that on the verse 30th, we are told the first commandment is to love God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and all your strength. So I understand that scripture. I'm not ignoring that. Don't say, oh, I'm picking and choosing. I am speaking this content, having that in mind. But that discussion requires a whole subject of itself. Because the word there is very simple. And it's actually an expansion of what we're talking about. So for the sake of curiosity, I will go there, just brush it quickly and continue with where I'm supposed to be. In that verse 30th of chapter 12, it in fact says, love the Lord your God. They're using two of those words, one to mean master, another one to mean God, in an reference as they're showing that the God who is your master, who rule over you. And who is this God who is your master, who rule over you, that you should love? Because they're using the Lord, which means a master, the one who rules over, and then the word God there as the word God. We know it. Theo. In Greek is Theo. So, but here is the question. Who is this God? What is that reference? We've been giving God and thinking, but there is a place where we are referred or informed who is God. In the book of Genesis, where Moses was was talking to God, he asked this very simple question. He said, if you're sending me back to these children of Israel, that I was once ruling over them because I was in the Pharaoh family, who am I going to say have sent me before they throw stones on me? He didn't use that word, throw stones, because I can imagine somebody ruled over you and suddenly comes and say all these things. And this guy was the one who was, he did anything in person, but where he was sitting from, he was still sitting from a point of view where he imposed pain and suffering on your life. So you're asking yourself, so Moses is asking himself, how am I going to go and tell these people who have sent me? And he goes, and the God said, I am that I am. My name is I am. Forever I'll be I am. Of course, it talks about I'm the God of Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac. And forever I'll be known by that name. What name? I am. So if we take that word and use it in that very scripture, the 30th verse, it says, love your Lord or your master, I am, with all your heart, all your mighty, all your mind, all your strength. That's really what he's saying. Love I am. I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to get myself out of what I had already prepared to talk. And I say that conversation is a whole session of conversation by itself so that you can have a clear understanding. But I will try to leave it there and then maybe elaborate further as we go along so you can see why that became the first commandment that Jesus said, you should love your Lord, the Lord your God, with all your mighty heart, strength, and soul. It's a very, very important statement because it set the stage. But I didn't start there because that stage is too high to be able to break it down all the way. But I think you get the idea there. That which we must love with all our heart, with all our mind, with all our soul is the I am. Not I am this or I am that. The I am itself. The awareness of being. It is that which you must love. Meaning that it is that which you should be. And I don't want to kind of spoil it. So I'm going to leave that with the word that which you must love. And we'll come back and talk about it. I hope that's okay. I think I can move on in providing the more content of what I was looking for. So here in this chapter 31, and we're told end. So chapter 31, it's a follow-up of the chapter 30th where you're told you should love your God with all your mighty, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. Strength and mighty, I guess, the same. And then the next one now is love your neighbor. That's very, very interesting. And I've heard different information and conversation in that particular area. But today I'm going to just bring it a different perspective. Maybe you've heard it, but I doubt if you have. And if you heard, maybe you've heard in some of my previous video. It says, love your neighbor. Guess what? The second sentence is as more important than anything else in that sentence. It says, as you love yourself. That's a very, very important statement because it teaches us that self-love is the most important element one can have. I grew up, I was told self-love is bad. Not by my parents, I went to church. And we were told self-love is not good. You gotta love people, you gotta give people stuff, and God will bless you. If you understand this principle, you will understand why that is a garbage information. And I use the word garbage, meaning that it needs to be set aside. Not because it's a bad thing, it needs to be set aside. We throw garbage, we put things in the garbage. Some things are good. It's just we are setting aside for us. I don't want these shoes, even though somebody else could use that shoes, but I'll put them in the garbage. The shoes are not bad. It is not, I'm just setting aside, not for me. So I hope you understand why I use the word garbage, so that nobody can be offended by it. I'm just saying I'm putting it aside because it's not for me. And I will explain you why it's not for me. It doesn't mean I don't extend a helping hand for others. First time I got offended by the same statement. I wasn't looking in this way, but I got offended the first time I was flying. It was in 1997, I think. That was first time, 96, the first time I got into a plane. So, and imagine it's the first time, and I'm sitting on the plane, and the instructions they're giving us, if there's an emergency and the mask comes down, put the mask on your face first. And on that plane, I remember there was an old lady sitting by my side. So growing up where you're told you have to care of others, you got to take care of yourself, you got to sacrifice in helping others. So I'm sitting and I'm listening to this instruction for the first time. I said, what the heck are they talking about? You're telling me when there's an emergency, this lady here might not be able to attend to herself. I need to attend to myself first before her? That's selfishness. So I was like, that makes no sense. And I was somewhat offended by that statement. But then later, as I started flying more often in the plane, I understood why that is important. Because I am as strong as when I have the strength and the mask on me versus when I don't have and trying to help another. If I don't have the oxygen that is sufficient to keep me strengthened, I will not be able to fully attend to her or the person beside me, whether being my child, my wife, anybody else, my mom, my siblings, or even a person who is handicapped. If I start attending to them, I'm going to burn so much oxygen, and therefore by the time, even before I finish attending to them, I will not be able to attend to myself. So likely both of us, we will lose our lives. But if I attend to myself first, I'm going to put the mask. It's easy. It's right here. I grab it, put it on. I can breathe, take deep. I'm feeling good. I can turn around and attend to anybody who is by my side. And I will have the energy, the strength, the focus to attend to them fully. And I can save their life, but only after I saved mine. When I understood that, I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense. And these scriptures, most people get offended or don't want to go to that level because they're so attentive to this idea. I got to help people. And I know people who have given everything they've had because they are thinking you got to give and give and give so that you can be receiving the blessings. It's not that way. You can only give to the extent that you have. So why not have more so you can give enough and yet still have enough for yourself? So here, that's the physical environment as we deal with. But really, what does that scripture mean? Why did I call it the holy grail of everything when it comes to love? Because it's very simple. You are told you should love your neighbor as much as you love yourself. So my love for my neighbor, whether it's a physical neighbor, we'll get to that later, but let's talk physically. So my love for my neighbor, it is measured based on my love for myself. If I do not love myself, I will not have the capacity to love another. So for you who are women beaters, the reason you're beating that woman is simply because you don't love yourself. If you love yourself, my brother, you will not raise your hand to beat another woman, to beat a woman. And for those women who like to fight with their men, if you are that one person, the reason you guys are fighting each other's like cat and dog, it is simply because you do not love yourself. If you love yourself enough, you will have enough love for another. And that enough love will lead to a different type of lifestyle than you've ever been lived one. And you're going to say, Alpha, you're just crazy. I didn't stay in marriage for 28 years because I'm crazy. I must be doing something reasonable. And I've kept my marriage even after going to prison. Many people, the moment they go there, they lose that. But my marriage stayed intact. My wife held it together. And it wasn't a short journey. It was a 9-year journey, serving an illegal sentence. She was there thick and thin with me all along. I must be doing something reasonable. And in fact, when all this began, all that journey began, I said, listen, you're very young. I understand if you want to move on, I give you the permission. But we just need to talk about how do we make sure that our kids are raised in a manner that together had agreed to raise them. And she looked at me that I think she thought I was crazy. She's like, what's wrong with you? You haven't really understand yet about love. And she gave me a decent speech. And I understood. And the speech was simple. She just said, if you were not the kind of a man that you were before this incident, you didn't have to ask me. I would have told you goodbye. But because of the nature of the man, the way you carried yourself and demonstrate your love for this family, there is no one else I can go to, nor will I look for. You are more than enough. You can be more and more enough, more than enough, but you are more than enough under the circumstances. And when I looked back later, her statement was simply based on this very statement. She loved herself enough. Then she had the capacity to extend as much love to me, who was broken at the time. And because she was extending genuine love to me, I had no choice but to give back, shake it over, press it down, as the scripture says it. Meaning that I could only give more and more because I'm receiving more. I'm not receiving, people say, but I love my husband. I do all these things. That's the problem. You do all these things because you think that is love. We're going to get to what love is. I just want to kind of create this foundation that you have an understanding that love is more than what you have come to understand. To do certain things for somebody does not mean love. There's a famous verse that many people don't like to talk about it, but I just want to kind of bring it into this context. Job was known to be a person of great wealth, fear God, and he was very successful. But we're told that he was always afraid that something wrong will happen to his kids because they were having fun, they were living life to the fullest. So he was afraid. And guess what? He was giving his offering out of fear. Not in thanksgiving, he was giving his offering out of fear. And he said at the end, when all that was said and done, he said, the thing I feared the most has happened to me. I think it's 3:25 or Job 125, 125. The thing I feared the most has happened to me. So Job was doing everything, sacrifice. He was giving offering, as we know. But yet he experienced a serious calamities. Yes, there's a story, pre-story that says devil was talking to God and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, we're told, he said, the thing I feared the most has happened to me. So when you said, I am doing all these things for my spouse, and yet he or she doesn't love me, you're doing things based on what thought? What are you afraid that you're doing? Are you doing it out of love that you genuinely love, or you're doing it out of pleasing the person? You want to show them you love them. And we'll get to that so you can have a better understanding. But love is very, very complicated for most of us. Again, because of that, lack of that understanding. But I'm going to take that scriptures Mark 12:31 to a new height, to heighten up the content of the scriptures. So there's that context of the physical level. The Apostle Paul called it the text. the letter. The letter kills, the spirit gives life. So what I spoke about your neighbor, your spouse, it's about the letter level, which is the plain level of the scriptures. But let's leave it up or take it a notch to a spiritual level. A spiritual level is the awareness. It have nothing to do with the physical thing. It's this idea, the awareness, what it implies in our awareness. So when it talks about love your neighbor, the question we have to ask, who is the neighbor? Actually, the word that is used in the scriptures, English, it means neighbor, because it's referenced nearby. In Greek, it means nearby. Yeah, I think that's what if I have, yep. It means nearby. So it's been translated as neighbor. And the actual word is called plesion, if I pronounce it correctly. But it is near or nearby. That's what it means. So you have to love that which is nearby you as much as you love yourself. That is a very, very important piece. So what is nearby you? It is not the person who lives beside your building, or the building beside you, or the apartment next to you, or anybody next to you. That's not what actually the spiritual aspect of this context means. The only thing that is nearby you, actually, let's say the only thing that is near, as it so talks about in this context, it is the idea. So let's go back this. What ideas that are in you? You should love those ideas as much as you love yourself. I hope that you're following. So you should love these ideas as much as you love yourself. Unfortunately, we love the ideas more than we love ourselves. And we'll go there and you can see why that is an important statement. So the word used as you love yourself there, if you have to talk about yourself, what do you say? Can anybody type down, because I think this video is on YouTube. So type down there, what would you say if you have to introduce yourself? What do you say? You can say, like for me, I can say Alpha. I have to start with an expression of first person impression. I am. I am is the self. And guess what? I am is the name of God. And that's why in the first verse it says, you should love I am. You should love I am, the self, with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, all your mighty. Meaning that you should have so much love for yourself. Because once you love yourself that much, then you can love the ideas much. Then they are no longer the master. You are still the master of these ideas. Because the ideas that we acquire or fall in love to, they identify us. They give us identity. There's an idea that people say, I am a Christian. That's an idea. And that idea provided you an identity. So you identify yourself as such. But when you saw falling in love with an idea, there's so many ideas running around. And when you're looking at them and you just want to jump in each one of them, that is the problem. I want to have more money. That's an idea that you want to identify with more money. But if you don't love yourself, eventually you're chasing money and you leave yourself behind. And that's where the problem comes, because our identity is no longer on ourself, it is on the money. Your identity, you're saying, I love this man. You have identified that man, that woman as the most valuable thing in your life. And therefore your identity is in that person, not yourself. But if the identity is on myself, I'm going to say, as I always my wife knows, I clarify that I am the most handsome man available all over the world. I am for me. You might say I am considered. No, I am for me. I'm not talking about the world. If let's say I am the most wealthiest person in the world, in the world, but for who? For me. I live in my world, and I am the most wealthiest person in the world I live, which is my world. I might not be anywhere even closer to where you are, but I'm not measuring myself against you. I'm measuring myself with myself. I am the most loving man there is existing on earth. I don't care what other people, how much they love and care about that people, but I am for me. And therefore I express that I am for me toward those who are around me. So my identity is not on my love for my wife, but on the love for myself. And therefore I can pour my love. So my relationship with my wife is no longer based on her. It's based on me. And therefore I am in control. When things fall apart or goes wrong, it is not her fault. I have to look in me to correct where did I go wrong. Even if the doing is on her. But yet, remember, my love for her is not based on her. It is based on me because I love myself more as much I can give it to her. The analogy of the airplane where you can only be as stronger as the oxygen mask is on you is an important. And in this part, the oxygen mask is this idea we call love. If I don't have love for me, I am just giving out of empty heart. And therefore that love is not genuine. And those who are around us can sense it. I know I know somebody who knows how to give love. They see you, they will give you. They will cherishing you up. But often it comes from a place of emptiness. That person, if they would have loved themselves much first, then that which they give it to you will come genuinely and much richer. So you'll find you may have been in a place where you say somebody comes in and they're smiling and they're doing all these things. You say, this person is faking it. Why? Because their expression is not genuine and it's not coming from their personal love. They do not love themselves. Love your neighbor than you love as much as you love yourself. So you have to love self. You have to love the idea of I am. What are you saying about your I am when you wake up in the morning? I am not feeling well. I am a bum. I am a dog. I am a bitch. I am a this. I am a foolish. I am stupid. I am nonsense. I am not. You call yourself all these things. And you think you're going to be able to show yourself better? I am a player. I am this, I am that. It's a nice word to use. But that word defines your identity. You are identifying yourself based on that without loving yourself first. Because if you truly love yourself, the self is pure by nature. You have nothing. You cannot call yourself a bitch. You can't call yourself all kind of names that are meaningless, that have no value. You are valuable. You're the most valuable person on this earth. You and you and you. And I declare each and every day, I am the most valuable person on this earth. And I have to walk as such each and every day. When I encounter a situation, I said, man, Mr. Valuable person, how would you solve this? You are the most valuable person. And suddenly my attitude changed. I love myself first so I can love these ideas. But the ideas no longer drives my love. I drive my life. I don't know if that makes sense. And that's why in the beginning of the verse 30th, it started, love your Lord, the Lord your God. Love that which masters you. The I am. Self is I am. It's a self, it's you. The spiritual aspect of you, which is the Spirit of God within you. The awareness. since it is out of this abyss called awareness we create in this world. That's an important element to grasp and have an understanding, because it is out of misalignment of that understanding where you experience life the way you experience. You're chasing after money, you're chasing after men, you're chasing after women, you're chasing after fame. All of those things are going to run you to a burnout, because your relationship is outward. But if I start loving myself, and then I change my relationship with those things, I no longer see them as my masters, but I see as my equal, or am I ruler of them. I am a guy. So an example, and let me just put it together, this conversation. If you think of a time and a period where there were slaves, those times the relationship was different. When you're a slave, you're looked under and you're treated and commanded what need to be done. So when you start loving these things, what happens is you give them value that is greater than what they are. And then they dictate your worthiness. I gave you an example when I was running a mortgage company and I had a real estate company that were doing extremely well back in 2000, all the way to 2008. 2007, that's when things started going sour and all that stuff. But at that time, it came to a point where I identify myself with the success I was experiencing. So when things got tough, I was desperate. I was, listen, I was like, okay, this doesn't make sense. But because so-and-so are saying it, then I'm going to make it make sense. I was looking for a reason to justify those deals making sense. But in the time when I was normal in my mind, I was not walking out of desperation. Guess what? I turned down so many transactions. It is illegal for somebody to buy 2 properties and call them owner-occupied. But in my case, one of the property guy, once this person came and said, I want to buy a house. And I had a house that I was desperately looking to sell. I said, let me show you. And actually, I convinced them to buy the house. Any salesperson will do so. And they said, great, I will buy it. But then I overheard him saying with somebody else, and I heard what he was saying. And he said, he doesn't really like that house, but he can see the potential of renting it. So he's still looking for a second house where he can actually live in it. So I went to the loan officer, because it was my office. I said, did I heard correctly? He said, yeah. I was desperate to sell the house. So if I refuse, that means he won't buy the house I'm selling. So what did I say? I said, the only thing I'm asking you, do not let him close the second house in this office. He can go and get it anywhere. You can send it anywhere else, but we can only close one. And I thought I was clean. I thought I was clean. I'm like, okay, I didn't close 2 properties. I refused. But guess what? I was aware that he's closing 2 properties. And still I allow the loan officer to say it's owner-occupied. And the loan officer was very aware that he's not going to occupy that property because the guy told him. You see where I'm going with it? But I was so desperate. I love the money. Then the money started dictating the terms that I'm willing to play with. On the contrary, though, if I had loved myself more, the presence or absence of money would not move me, because I know money is a product of myself. I can have more of it if I love myself more, because I have the capacity to love more of it. What I was acting there, I was acting out of fear. Fear is the opposite of loving yourself. Fear is desperately chasing that which you think, you're afraid something will go wrong. You are not sure. But when you love yourself, you are confident with yourself. You're confident of who you are. And you know it is out of you a spring of life comes. So therefore, you're not worried. You're telling me, let's say this God is sitting out there. Let's just paint a picture. God is sitting there. And he sees wars and all the fire and all the disasters are going on around the world. Does he panic? Like, oh my God, these human beings are doing some terrible things. These terrible things are happening. Out of him, life proceeds. So guess what? He just watches and know everything else will normalize. No worry, no stress. That's what meaning loving yourself. You build the confidence within yourself. And once you have that confidence, it becomes easier to move forward. So let's look at the very scripture that actually tells us what this love is. Because I've told you about this ideology and how the interrelationship, I call it the Holy Grail because it reveals this relationship, that love begins with you. So now we know that love begins with you. Then let's look at what love is so that you know what begins with you. Of course, in the book of the Corinthians here, 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7, we're told love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is self-seeking, it is not easily angered. I mean, you get the point. I don't want to bore you with reading. You know what it says. Love is kind, love is patient, all of these things. So love is all of these things. And this is, to me, there might be some other places, but I like this particular place because the scriptures, this is the only place I found where actually it tells us what love is. And I know there are some scholars there will say, okay, but you know, Alpha, you don't understand because the love that is spoken there. I said, I've done the research. I understand what he's saying. I might not be a linguistic person, and I am not. I agree that. My understanding is based on my personal intuition coupled with the research. I do a lot of this meditation, reflection, and then I research on the subject. But usually by the time I'm done with the meditation and reflection, the subject has already come to me because I love myself first. I love myself in that area, and it is within me where the revelation is revealed. When I go out to search, I'm just affirming. I want to use references. That's all I do. I'm taking this reference, that reference, and I'm tying them up and I say, okay, this is what it means. But usually the inspiration already comes. That's how I've worked. And it just works like a magic. I thank my teacher. I learned from none other but Neville Goddard. I have to give him the credit. I've read so many books, but when I arrived to this gentleman called Neville Goddard, as I was reading his material, listening to his teaching, he inspired me even more because he's always challenging his students. I don't care how many times you come to my courses, how many times you come and show up. I do not care. What it matters if you come one day and test the theory that I'm sharing with you. So he was challenging to test and test because in the scriptures we're told you will know them by their fruits. So what fruits are you known by when it comes to love? What fruits are you known by when it comes to finances? What fruits are you known by in each and every? I don't care. I'm not asking how do you go to church. This is not the question of the day. And Apostle Paul said, have you tested if Christ is in you? Have you tested? It is through the testing that you can be able to bring about the fruits that you can become known for. It is through the testing that if Christ is in you, are you of faith? And have you tested yourself if Christ is in you? It is through that testing that you actually produce fruits that you become known for. So when you are known for a particular fruits, if those fruits does not reflect the ideals you want to experience and live by, then you have failed the test. It doesn't matter you go to church 10 times a day. It doesn't matter if you are the pastor yourself. It doesn't matter if you are whatever the bishop, the deacon, and the diacon, and it does not matter. The titles, the showing off, the showing for, the performances, none of those matters. The holy grail of understanding of who you are is lying in those. So, that being said here, let's look at the first scripture, the first verse there, the first part of the scripture, it says, love is patient. Love is patient. It's a very interesting statement. So, if love is patient, and in what we talked about earlier, love your neighbor as you love yourself, are you patient with yourself? Because love is patient. Are you patient with yourself? Or are you frustrated with yourself? So the word patient is derived from this word called, I'm going to try to see if I can figure it out what the word means. It's called macrothumia. It's a Greek word, which is derived from two words: macro, meaning long. Micro means smaller, macro a little bigger. So that's where that kind of comes. Meaning macro means long, and thumia, it translates to emotion or passion. So what it means there together, it's saying long duration of emotional restraint and endurance. So it is that ability and the will, or let's say the willingness to endure something more longer than usual. The ability to endure something longer than usual. I hope that makes sense. If you're getting, just give me some yes, please. Does that make sense though? Just give me some yes. If not, give me some no's, and I'll know where the no comes from. And just maybe you can put a statement, it didn't make sense, this. So what I can do is I can improve this video by providing clarification on those areas that are not making sense. So feel free, critique and challenge me and say, man, it makes no sense that you're talking about is BS because ABCD. Give me those, and let me recreate another video providing with more clarity so it can make sense. Because my goal here is to give you information that's gonna help you. The question is not about loving and just go and love people. That's not what I'm teaching you. I'm teaching you how to love yourself, that you can have enough love to express to the world, enough love to express to money. Your poverty situation is the result of lack of your relationship with that money. If you don't love enough yourself about you and this idea of money with you, how can you have more money? How can you have a happier relationship? How can you have a better career? How can you have a successful business? It is nearly impossible to have these things if you don't have that love for yourself first. Because you end up chasing everything else. But here we are told what love is. Love is patient, the ability to endure longer than normal. Today, I was having a conversation with a friend. Not today, actually. I wanted to use the word today in reference to you, but I figure let me just bring this story to clarify, to bring meaning to this conversation. I was having a client. I was talking to a client, and he said he feels bad because he does these things. He doesn't know why he does them, and because of that which he does, he caused his wife to cry herself to sleep. And he recognized that is not a very good feeling to see that the person you say you love is going to sleep crying because of something you did. And he just says these things are just happening. And some of them, they're happening so ridiculous, he's not intending. And some of them, there is no meaning to it. But because of his past behavior, she keeps associating each and everything that she sees that look like as if he have done so. So he is struggling. He doesn't know what to do. He told me, Alpha, man, I'm confused. I don't know what to do. How can I go about fixing this? So we were having a conversation. I didn't tell him what to do. We were just having a conversation. And in having this conversation, he's using these very simple statements. There's a C word he keeps using frequently. He will say, man, women are trouble. Women are just trouble. Even my wife, and she's just trouble because it makes no sense. So he uses words he have classified, he have identified, he has an identity of what women are. And he will use these words over and over. Trouble. You can't even get what they're saying. They don't get us. You say, Alpha, but she doesn't get me. They don't get us, man. So I'm listening, he's a client. So I give him the opportunity, and through his conversation and his words, I am understanding what he is willing What he is willing to endure longer than normal. He's enduring this idea. He's holding this idea that women are trouble. He's holding this idea women don't get us. His wife doesn't get him. He's holding this idea longer than normal. He kept repeating this idea and many other of similar like words over and over in expressing his point when he's trying to defend his position. So really his love, if love is patient, and patient means the ability to endure something longer than normal, to restrain yourself from doing something else but holding on to something else longer than normal. I'm standing here. There's an urge for me to go and sit, but I've made an attempt that I'm going to spend a lot of time standing. I haven't bought those adjustable, height adjustable desk so that I can always stand as a way to kind of work, just to be in motion. Body in motion is better than the body that is just sitting. I've sit for many years, so I just understand. But there's an urge for me to go and sit, but I'm restraining myself from going and sit. And because I'm restraining myself from going and sit down, my love is on there. So by me continue to keep myself on standing, I am loving standing more than sitting. Even though my body might be telling me that it's tired, it should sit. But the fact that I am continuously standing, it means I am expressing love on standing over sitting. Even though maybe sitting will make me feel comfortable, but yet because I'm standing, guess what? I'm loving standing more, because that's where I have continuously I'm showing my capacity to endure that act of standing longer than normal. So when you call women bitches, bitch this, bitch that, bitch there, bitch went down, bitch went sing, bitch went left, bitch went right, what are you saying? You are enduring your ability to endure this idea of a bitch, and you have in your mind what a bitch means. So you are ability to endure this idea longer than normal demonstrate your love for bitches. So when your wife or your girlfriend start behaving like that idea called the bitches, don't be surprised, because that's where you are demonstrating your love to. If you would have learned to love yourself first, because when you love yourself first, you will only identify with things that have value to you. You're like, man, like I said in the morning, I said I usually confirm, I affirm in the morning to myself. I stand there, I'm not, it was something I couldn't do to begin, but now I am loving it. I go every morning before the mirror, my wife will testify to the fact, and I'll stand there sometimes for 15 minutes talking to myself about myself, clear naked. I'm not afraid. I love my body. I am proud of it. And I tell myself as such, I'm just loving this temple. It's a healthy temple. And I'm taking great joy of it. I am loving myself. Guess what? I can only come out and express an amazing body, an amazing energy to my family, because I have demonstrated love for myself by speaking. So to love myself, that's where the question I said earlier, we're going to clarify. If love is kind means the capacity to endure longer than normal. So when I say I love myself, what do? I am demonstrating the capacity to endure longer than normal. That's what I'm doing. I am demonstrating the capacity to endure this idea that I am healthy. I have this amazing body. You might say I don't have six-pack, but I don't care. I'm speaking of the six-packs because one day they're going to show up, because that is what I am speaking to myself about. So I am demonstrating my capacity to restrain myself from thinking negative, thinking of things that I don't want to think, and endure longer than normal over those things that matters to me. Love is kind. I hope you're getting it. But if not, if you're getting, give me yes. If in the comments below, just say yes, I'm getting it. Or if you're not, say why you are not, so that I can read those comments and be able to make the correction that is necessary. I hope that kind of making sense though. Because my goal is to make sure that you understand this so you can be able to use as a tool to transform your life. The next thing. So if I love myself more than if I focus on myself, and even English tells us patient originated from the Latin word patiens, which present particle. So the ability to suffer, to endure. Same thing I was talking about. That ability to endure, to suffer. Meaning that you are hanging there longer than normal. The question I have for you, what are you hanging longer than normal today? What emotional restraint or endurance are you exhibiting in your life? What that emotional restraining that you're exhibiting in your life, speak of your love in that area. So for some, they say life is difficult. I have a client who constantly, she speaks of how difficult it is. She'll see an opportunity, say, no, that's not for me. I'm like, what do you mean that it's not for me? Oh, black people can't have that opportunity. I'm like, okay, who said that? I mean, I read it, but it did say something to that effect. Oh, Alpha, you don't understand. That's not for me. It's not for us. It's not for this. I mean, there's always this idea that she sees opportunities differently. While I have another client who was like that. And this client, A, struggled to change. I mean, she's getting better, and the key is she's catching herself when she's saying these words. She's like, oh, I'm bad. I'm like, no, let's change that. You're not bad. Just say, oh, I remember now. Don't call yourself bad, because now you're giving yourself a bad representation of yourself. So if that's what you keep saying, that's what you end up loving. And if that's what you are loving, you're going to express in your life. You see why loving yourself is important? Because you can only identify yourself with things that are good. Apostle Paul said in Philippians, I believe, that he said, if you have to think of those things that are good, of good rapport, praiseworthy, truthful. For you to be good, isn't a good thing to think about? For you to be happier, isn't a praiseworthy thing? For you to feel loved, meaning that you are loved and you are loving, isn't it a good thing? Because that's what you're going to express in life. So I said, if you have to think of those things, and those things express the self. It is in speaking of those things you're saying, I love myself. When I stand up in the mirror every morning and I say, I am healthy, I am sexy, I am happy, I am successful, I am loving, I love my family, I'm doing this thing, and I go and I'm just dancing, and if I'm shaving, oh yeah, I'm a healthy man. Oh my God, I am a successful man. Oh my God, I'm just loving. I am happy. I am productive. I add value in people's life. I'm always in the right place at the right time. I'm just kind of dancing and I'm having some fun. Guess what am I doing? I am expressing love. I am hanging in those ideas longer than normal. I am thinking that which is happier, true, meaningful, praiseworthy. I hope you're getting the point. In doing so, you're expressing that love is kind. Love is kind. And then we're told, in addition to love is kind, love is patient. I think that was, love is patient. Meaning, so and then love is kind. So, love is kind. We're told that the kindness you cultivate. Okay, then that's all. So it's derived from the Greek word chereston, meaning useful, kind. So that the word kind here, of course, it have multiple meaning in terms. There's a kind in terms of a particular nature. So if things that are grouped together, you call them kind, they are one kind. Also, it means friendly, deliberately doing so to others, meaning you're deliberately doing something that is friendly to others. Also, it can mean nature. So kind have multiple things, meaning we're friendly and deliberate doing it. So let's use the word, for instance, friendly. Love is friendly. Friendly is the he's so friendly, he's so present. He's always there. He's so friendly, man. When you're with him, he's so friendly. So what does that have to do with love? So I'll take the similar conversation. The first client who said he have used these words he used frequently about what his wife sees in him. That she is this, she doesn't get him. They're trouble. She's trouble. Is this? He has all these words. So he is friendly to that idea. So love is friendly. So if you are friendly to an idea that is bad, you are expressing your love toward that which is bad. And that is what you will experience in life. Versus if you are friendly to ideas that are good, think of that which is praiseworthy. Oh man, I'm so very successful. I'm telling myself, even if, let's say, my wife did something, I'm like, that's out of point. Sometimes, you get in a moment you want to kind of start regurgitating the negative. I'm like, no. That's not her. My wife is amazing. She's wonderful. And I will repeat these words over and over. And all of a sudden, that anger, that disappointment disappears. And she does it the same for me. I'm not a perfect man. There are times I will behave in some form that I shouldn't. And sometimes I don't want to say, I know that I did this because of, but then you are hung, you're like, and then I go there and I just give her a hug and I say, I apologize, baby. I'm sorry. I do apologize. I should have known better. But at the time, I was in a particular emotion situation, so I behave in that manner. But in her end, what she does, she had changed my place long before I approach her. And eventually I find myself approaching her. So it works it out. We're not manipulating one another, we are improving one another. And our love becomes richer, meaningful, and deeper than ever before. And that's why I said earlier, when I met my wife the first time I laid my eyes on her, it was at a college. She was close to the cafeteria. I was coming out of the library and I saw this chick with a red jacket on top and a black slack, and I was like, wow, she looks amazing. I would love to get her phone number. That's what I felt. And eventually we ended up being in the same class. And at the last day of the class, I gave her a ride because her ride didn't show up. And it felt so amazing to have to be with her in the car. And then from there, she came to a party my cousin was hosting. And it was just beautiful to be with her again. I'm like, oh my God. And we were dancing and everything else. And then eventually we started dating, we got married, and life went on and on and on. And every moment was better than the first moment. And today, as we're continuing this amazing journey together, I feel much happier, stronger, connected with her than ever before. My love is much deeper and richer than ever before. But simply because we have gained the understanding of this idea that the thoughts, I will leave that this is what we were working, like love is patient. What am I patient with? What am I willing to be friendly with? What ideas am I friendly with? Are they ideas that speaks of me? Love yourself. So if I don't want to be being in a love relationship that it stinks, I don't want to be I don't want to work in a job that doesn't give me the satisfaction I'm looking for. So to love myself is to love the idea that I have a satisfactory job. To love myself is to say that I have a relationship that is very healthy. To love myself is to say I am a healthy person. To love myself is to say I am a productive member of a society. To love myself is to say I contribute to humankind constantly, because that's what I like. So that's who I am. And when I don't find myself doing that, I have to return back and say, am I telling myself that I am that person I want to be? And when I realize I continue to change, to affirm that I am the person I want to be. That is what it means to love myself. Because I am identifying myself with the things that matters, not with the things that appear to be. The world seems to appear a chaotic place, but I'm telling you, there are people who are living in an orderly environment every single day and they're happy. So why will I identify myself with things that are bad? Even when I was in prison, guards, staff used to say, man, you are different from everybody else. And most of them started asking me, what is the secret, Alpha? What is the secret? And I started giving them the secret. At that time, I was working on this framework and kind of guides this process, because the question is, if I have this understanding, how do I use the understanding to transform my life? But in this case now, we're still kind of sticking to this idea. Love is patient now. So what are you patient with? What are you patient for? Of course, we're talking about when love is kind. So the question here I want to ask you, what is the nature of your thoughts? Because kind means nature as well. What are the nature of your thought? Because that nature of your thought speaks of the love you have over that. That which you think constantly reveals what you love. Tennis, I believe that's his name, is a poet. He said, if you did not love me, you would not have found me. So every circumstances in your life, good or bad, is a product of your love. Your love for those things where you were kind to the things, where the nature of your thoughts brought you to the experience you're having. So if you change the nature of your thoughts, your experience will change as well. As in Proverbs 23:7 says, as a man thinketh in his heart, as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. A heart is a city of emotion and thoughts. So as you think in your thoughts and emotions, so as you think and feel, so you become. Our lives are dictated by ideas. The ideas we identify things to be. And those ideas activate our thinking. And our thinking awakens our emotions. And our emotion dictates how we behave. And therefore we encounter experience that is consistent with those emotions, because we behave to reflect those emotions. I hope that makes sense. If it does, again, give me some thumbs up, give me some muscle up, hunk it, whatever the case is. And if you're confused, say, clarify ABC, and I got you. Love is not envious. This is the funny one. Let me see here. Yeah. I didn't know that when you do it on the phone, it's a little bit different. Showing envy. It describes someone who wants to be in the same situation as somebody else. So I see you have this successful lifestyle. And I say, I want to have that lifestyle. For me to want to have that lifestyle, I am saying I do not have it. So it's a psychology. Keep in mind. So for me to say, man, I don't have money. Or I want to be like you, man. I'm saying I am not like you. That's why I want to be like you. If you are a successful person, let's say you're a successful musician, and I say, I want to be like you, man, and I am an artist, I am saying in my mind, I am not a successful person. You see, I hope it makes sense. That's what I'm saying. And if that's what I'm saying, I am willing to endure longer than normal in this concept that I am not a successful musician. And if that's what I'm willing to endure, that's what I will get. I hope you're following. We've been building this all along. It's the same theme. So I'm saying, man, and that's why envy is not good, because you want to be in a position of another. And you are saying to yourself, you are not in that position. And because you're not in that position, you're saying that is the thing that you are willing to hold longer than normal. That is the kind of thought you want to entertain. And because that's the kind of thoughts that you want to entertain, and because that's the type of emotion you want to contain, that is the experience you will eventually have. But if you know that to love yourself is to think of those things that add value to your life or add smile to your face, then you will not entertain thoughts that takes away that smile from you. That's why you have to love yourself as you love your neighbor. Because now if I love myself and say I am a successful man, I might not have a dime in my bank account. But I keep saying that I am a successful man, and I'm awakening emotions that are consistent with that idea of being successful. All of a sudden, my identity shifts from being a person who is poor back to being a person who is successful. And because I have this successful mentality in me, all of a sudden, I started looking at things from a different point of view. Imagine yourself now sitting watching this, and you walk into the room, maybe on a far corner of your apartment building. And when you get to that room, you start looking outside from that side, you will see a different picture. But you walk away and go to another room that is on opposite direction. When you look on the other side, you will see a different picture. You will see two different pictures, even though you're sitting in the same environment. So it is true, when I change my identity, that which I am willing to hold longer than normal in my mind, guess what? It provides me a new point of view. You've been in a situation where actually you went to a store and you were looking for clothes, and you found this nice dress you want, or you went to a car bar to buy a car, and you you're looking like, this car is nice, I'm going to buy it. Even if you don't buy that car, the moment you walk out of that car place, you will see a number of the similar cars that you saw in the car place, in the dealership. You will see a number of people wearing similar or equal or look-alike of the clothes you saw in the store you wanted to buy. Because now you become aware of that which you were thinking, that which you saw, and now you can see. So we do not see with our eyes, we see with our thinking. There's something in our mind, it's called RCA, which is used, it determines what information can come to our mind. It passes through our retina, goes to our brain, and being interpreted, and we know what it is. It's a filter. It's a science. But the scriptures understood this long ago. That's why Paul said, if you have to think of those things that are good, that adds smile to your face. Those things that makes you happy are true. It is true to be successful. And if you're not successful, that means your love is somewhere else. And I'm doing this for myself. When I find myself I'm not where I want to be in life, I examine my thoughts. I examine my feelings. And sometimes I go to a point where I have a system I'm going to share with you before. So if you hang on long enough, I'm going to wrap it up soon. I will share the system that I usually use. What I will do sometimes, I will set alarm an hour every day to remind me to remember what I need to endure or hold into my mind longer than normal. People call it affirmation. Some people call it prayer. To pray is to think as if it is done. Jesus said, if you pray, believe you've received. So to pray is to actually say, it is done, I have it. I am healthy, I am successful. So when I'm singing in the mirror in the morning, I am handsome, I am wonderful, I am healthy, I am successful. Guess what? I am praying. You might come in the room and say, wow, man, what's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong, I'm praying. You'll be kneeling down, I'm like, oh, what's wrong with you? You chose a different way. There's no way that there's no scripture that says you get to pray that way. Yes, there is a meaning to it. And it will be a different topic on a different day. So you kind of got an idea. I can go and break down each one of them, but they all have the same meaning. The time is limited, so I will. So in an essence that as you think, so you become. The thing you think the most in your mind and the feeling you have for those things dictates the type of a person and the behavior you'll exhibit at any particular time and motion. The truth is, when you condemn yourself, you condemn yourself out of your own ignorance, meaning that there's something you ignored before. If I sit here and condemn myself for what happened in 2008 when I sold that house and I knew that that person was going to buy a second house, but I wanted to sell my house desperately. And because I wasn't the one who's doing the second loan, I felt like I was not violating a law. I can go back and regurgitate that information. I'm condemning myself. But at the moment, I did not know what I know today. That's the truth of the matter. And my behavior then could not have changed no matter what. The only way that behavior could have changed is if I had a different information. Absence that truth, I would continue to behave the same way then, now. A change of information, that's why in Romans we're told, change your mind. Do not be conformed to this world. The world is the environment as you see it, as you experience it now. So do not conform yourself to that reality. Instead, change your mind. And how you change your mind? You think as if you are. Think of those things that are happier, praiseworthy, joyful to keep in mind. And if you think of those things, then you are expressing your love for yourself, and you love those things as much. Because those things are the self in question. And when you start paying attention to them, you are loving. So love, in short, if I can, it doesn't mean what kind of love you're talking about. I am a person who believes there's only one type of love. You can argue with me, it makes no difference. I just told you I am of opinion. And I'm going to hold my opinion because it serves me well. And if your opinion serves you well, if you're arguing from academic point of view, be there. But I'm praising you based on my opinion and my experience. And this experience and this opinion serves me very well. There's only one type of love. But that type of love can be expressed in different forms. So there is this love I'm paying attention to. To love is to pay attention towards something longer than normal. Is to persist toward a particular form of thinking and feeling longer than normal. And that persistence in a particular framework of thinking and feeling determines, or it says, it defines your identity. You say, I am this, because you are paying attention to this longer than normal. So if you have ever identified yourself as something, but it is just me that things always go bad, because you are focusing so much on what is going bad longer than normal. I was in a situation, I've been trying to launch my coaching career for some time, and there were some pieces were missing. So I spent a lot of hours trying to piece these pieces in YouTube. I'll check this video, this person will give me this instruction, this video, that person will give me. And I will try each one of them, and nothing will come together and make it complete. Because I was being cheap. That's the truth. I was being cheap. I kept saying, I can't afford. Man, I gotta make money first, and then I will invest in this program. But then a year later, I realized I have nothing to show for. My videos are not in a professional manner. There are so many things that were not coming together, and I'm like, man, I need to make it work. And I started applying the same technique, and I started examining my mind, and I'm like, I've been thinking longer than normal. Every time I said, I'm not going to pay for it, let me just continue to learn, self-learning, I was saying I don't have money. And therefore I couldn't have money. How can I have money when I say I don't have? As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Love is patient. What I'm patient about, so I become. Love is kind. That which the nature of my thoughts creates my reality. That's the bottom line. That's what the scripture is teaching us. So when I examining, I realized I had this limiting belief of money, despite me keep affirming that I am financially well. But yet my thinking when it comes to spending money was limited. So the first test I had is I was able to, my wife paid for this program I took. And when I took this program, they said, guess what, Alpha? You got to spend a lot of money to be able to learn all the details that are in it. I felt the test. It was like, okay. And I said, I cannot endure this idea. I don't have enough. I can't afford. I don't want to be that person anymore. So the first thing I said, oh my God, I can afford this. I can afford this. I can afford this. But I knew that I had no money for it. But I kept saying, I can afford it. I can afford it. Oh my God, I can afford it. And I was so excited that I can afford it. And the next day, I got a call from a customer service. They had a rep that they assigned for for a group of people, I guess, I'm assuming. And this lady called and she said, I see that you participated on the first program and you show interest on the second one, which goes into detail. I said, yes, I am. Because I needed that framework. I needed to get a certain framework that would take me out of a rut. kind of get out of there so that I can move forward. And guess what? Because I kept saying, I did it. I have the money. Suddenly there was an idea. And I went and talked to my wife. I'm like, what do you think about this? And she's like, do not tell me what to think, baby. I'm not going to give you permission. You have to give permission to yourself. I'm like, oh my God, who is this woman? She's like, you're teaching me all the time. So you have to exercise the same teaching you're teaching people. Don't ask for permission. If you're saying you have it, then just know you have it and let it be. And I'm like, okay, you're throwing and slapping back on me. That's fine. So I took it and I was fine. And somehow things happened within the same day that it made possible for me to make a payment. And the lady was actually on the other side, said, actually, you don't need to pay all of it. If you can pay half, because I'm not going to tell you it's a significant chicken change from the place where I was then. I'll say the number. It's $10,000 was for this program. That they're coaching you, they're giving you material, and they're defining the framework that you can use in order to utilize. Because sometimes it's not like we don't have the knowledge. It's just we have the scattered knowledge and it need to be collected. And in the scripture, we're told you got to gather together. Your thoughts have to gather together in one place, in one focus, in order for you to be effective. When the sun is scattered, it can't burn a piece of paper. But take that convention lens, put the sun, so you're converging the rays of the lens in one location, you can burn the piece of paper. You can light the fire. Simple. Concentrated energy. So you're told when you gather, there must be a gathering of together. So when you gather these thoughts together, things happen. And I gather my thoughts that I got it now. I have it. And things happen. I paid $5,000 just like that. So that I can get this program in place. I can move on with it. And within less than a month after being in that program, I was able to launch my first course. After spending a year trying to do it myself. That's the power of having a framework that guides you through the process. And most of us, it's not because we're ignorant, because we're stupid, it's because we don't have that framework. As for me, for 1 year, I kept hustling, struggling, trying to make it work. When I got the framework, it made it easy because I can connect and things start making sense and they became easier. I was not stressed out, I was not frustrated. So that's why even in this teaching, in order for you to experience life, to experience this love, there is a framework I call the 3I framework. And this 3I is made of 3 I's, literally. The first I stands for idealization. You cannot go anywhere without having a destination. So the first I means you have to identify the ideal, the thing that you want to become. Unfortunately, most people suffer the syndrome that I am not enough. I don't deserve. I can't do it. It's the most tragedy that this world have ever suffered. If we're talking about diseases, this is an epidemic in itself. Because it kills people's dream. Millions and billions of people's dream have been killed because of that attitude. I don't deserve this. It doesn't happen for people like me, the people say, because they do not love themselves. It said, love yourself as you love your neighbor, or love your neighbor as you love yourself. If you cannot love yourself, you cannot love any other idea, nor can you own that idea to bring about the experience you want. People are suffering in poverty and everything else, not because they're stupid, not because they don't have the education, not because of any of those. It doesn't matter whether you have the education or not. When you learn to love yourself, the rest will align with you. In your professional career, when you're struggling to connect with people, you cannot seem to function to your highest capacity. Not because you're incapable of doing it, it's simply because you have not learned how to love yourself. That is the holy grail of all things. We are told, yes, the first command is to love thy God, to love thy Lord, to love the Lord thy God. The Lord is the master. God is I am. You have to love the I am that rules you, not the I am from outside. Because you can be I am, you can't start identifying yourself with things. That's not the I am in question. It's the I am that rules you. That's why the word is, you gotta love the Lord thy God. The Lord is that which rules. God is I am. The I am that rules you. That means it is that which is from eternal. It absolute. Absolute, I'm sorry. That which is absolute. That's what is asking you there. So if you learn to love yourself, that's the place where it begins. Everything else will flow accordingly. Your career will open up. Your relationship will open up. Your finances will open up. Your professionalism will open up. Your social life will open up. All these things will unfold themselves. If you go after these things, meaning that you start loving the things before you love your career, you're going to lose yourself in those things and they will become a burden. And when they become a burden, you're going to be overwhelmed, stressed out. How many people we know that in our eyes, they seem to be so successful in the social media. They acquire a status of being social influencers. They seem to have it all. And indeed, they get paid good money. But eventually they are distressed. They check themselves into psychiatric places. They struggle with mental issues, and some, unfortunately, because again, they have not loved themselves. They haven't learned the art of loving themselves. They end up taking their own life. It's unfortunate, it's tragedy, but it's a tragedy because of lack of knowledge. The scripture says, my people are destroyed because of lack of knowledge. And what is that knowledge? Because you have rejected me. It's to say, you have rejected I am. How do you reject I am? You do not love yourself because you are the I am. The self is the I am. And if you rejected the I am, you are going after the things. And if you go after the things are moving. The trend that makes something successful this time or this season will be different trend that will make another thing successful. But if you learn to love yourself, naturally you will respond to the world. Your relationship to that which you desire becomes different. It's not a relationship of master and slave. It's a relationship of who I am. If I am a wealthy person, it doesn't matter. The other day I was reading in this, most of you probably are familiar with the guy. His name is Grant Cardone. And I was watching, he was talking about this program. And I went and said, is this man seriously saying it's true? I went to National Geographic and searched, and there it was. They drop him in the middle of nowhere in the United States. They said, you're not going to use your name as Grant Cardone. We'll give you $100. See what you can do with it. He took $100 and turned it into $1 million, a couple of $1 million. I mean, it says 4 or 5, but I'm just going to use a couple of $few million. I don't want anybody to say, oh, you said this number, you lie. No. And I'm not promoting Grant Cardone, but I'm just saying that because and I was listening to something he said. He said he grew up poor, but he always think as if he was wealthy. That's the key. People will hear say he grew up poor. Oh my God. But no. There's something that he said. No, many people won't hear it. He said he grew up poor, but he always had this imagination that he was wealthy. And he knew that I think he said he used to tell his mom that I'm going to buy you a house, I'm going to do this. And of course, as any mother would encourage their child to do, continue to have those type of well-wished thoughts. But the secret there, he endured a particular line of thought longer than normal. A thought that expressed self-love. Because anything good, it comes out of self-love. So for him to keep thinking in that manner, even when they strip him with everything else and they gave him $100, he was able to take $100 to millions of dollars. That is the rule of the game. It begins with the self-love. I'm not disputing when people are telling you got to pursue this, but those are techniques. Techniques change. In the scriptures, there's this word, it says, there are many counselors, but we have one God. There's only one I am. If I hold into the I am will inspire me. I will act out of inspiration and it will be easier. It doesn't matter what technique you use. It doesn't matter what technique they are teaching. When I'm inspired, I am going to stand out because I'm acting out of inspiration. It's an expression from within. I am not acting out of technique. People are struggling. Oh, there's this trend. Did you hear what they're teaching now? I'm going to run to that one. And did you hear what they're teaching? I'm going to run. So I'm going this. Eventually you get dizzy, tired, exhausted. That's why people are doing that every single day. And they're doing popping pills. Popping pills left and right. They're doing it every day. You might be one of them because you're chasing after the thing itself. And the scripture is telling us, no. Love yourself first. What are you going to say? What if I do that? What am I said, actions comes when you develop the dominion of loving yourself. And when you act now, you're acting out of inspiration, not out of desperation. I acted out of desperation when I acted that time in my case in 2007. I was desperate to sell the house because I lost a lot of houses. I couldn't sell them anymore. They had upside down. I owed more than what I could sell for. I didn't have money to keep them. They needed renovation, and I couldn't afford to keep renovating, pouring money. This was one of the houses that I could sell it and make some money. So I was desperate. I was chasing after money. And I compromised myself. I'm like, he didn't tell me that, but I heard it. There's a technique in the court where you are told, that which the prosecutor or the lawyer knows that whatever they're about to say, it might cause them to be called in front of the judge to have a discussion, and the juror will be told to forget it. But these lawyers do, not because they are not afraid. They want the judge, the juror, to hear it. Because how can you forget what you heard? You cannot unheard it. And the judge would say, you can strike that. You didn't hear that. But they already heard. You cannot unheard. So that's important. That's the technique they use in court, but it's real in life. Where you place your attention, my friend, you're going to get the reaction. You're going to find that which way you place attention. As long as you keep, so that's what this whole scripture is about, love. So if you are thinking of, you have an amazing relationship. And I tell myself all the time, actually I have a meditation play that I play. I have an amazing relationship. My wife is amazing. She is gorgeous. And guess what? Sometimes I'll be just doing it. I'll look at her. I'm like, wow, she looks so gorgeous. Oh my God, look how amazing she looks. And all of a sudden she look at me, she's like, what? I said, I can't look at my wife. 27 years later, I still look at her as if I saw her yet. I just saw her for the first time. It's not because I'm pretending. It's because I keep telling myself she's gorgeous. I keep telling myself she's amazing. And she is amazing. She does things and I'm like, wow, my God, she's really nice. She's really kind to me. She's really loving. And I'm like, oh my God, how did I get so lucky to have that much love from her? Guess what? It's not luck. I have said these things over and over. I have endured in this line of thoughts and emotions longer than normal. So therefore, I can only get that which I have been enduring longer than normal. In places where I failed because I did not endure in the good direction longer than normal. I express my love briefly and turn away to something else. The secret is to persist. And that's why my framework, the 3I, you idealize. Idealize means you take something that is crooked and make it straight. So if I wash this shirt and it look wrinkled, it's wrinkled. What do? You iron it and you make it straight. I have idealized it. I've taken it from its deformed shape and made it good. But we don't do it with physical things, we do it with our thoughts. What is the thing that I want to idealize? What is the thing? This is every growth begins from a broken place. So there have to be something broken that is causing me certain pain or uncomfortable, and I want to change that. So that's where this process of love begins. And even when I'm at that level, when I say my wife is amazing, she's gorgeous and everything else, she's already that person. But by me keep affirming that, I escalate that love. That's why I love her more today than I love her when I met her the first time. Because I'm elevating the degree of my experience with her. And that's how you do it. But first it begins by identifying where you are and idealize it. And then you introduce, which is the second I. To introduce is to acquire the identity of the thing you want. You say that you are, you feel that you are, you see that you are. Then you identify yourself as if you are. Love is kind. I start looking to stay there longer than normal. That which you have idealized. And then the last I is called iterate, is to repeat. So I repeat this process over and over until I become an embodiment of that identity. I am that very person. I walk, I might not have a single dime in my bank account, but I walk as if I am. So people will open doors as if I am. They will direct me to places as if I am. And I will encounter circumstances that will make me become that which I thought to be. So do not despair when you don't see things working out right away. That's why the framework that I have works very well, because it reminds, you can look and say, oh, where is it wrong? Did I idealize the correct thing? Yeah, I did. Great. So that one is taken care. Did I introduce it? Did I personalize it? Am I saying I am that? Just like I told you the situation with me saying I don't have enough, I can't afford it. That's the thing, same thing. I went back and looked, I'm like, okay, I idealize it, I say it, but in my statement when I'm talking about spending money, I'm not actually reflecting this idealized. Because if I say I am wealthy, I'm well-to-do, guess what? I have more than enough to meet my obligations. Then when I have an obligations, I shouldn't be worried. I shouldn't say I don't have enough. In my mind, I might not have in the bank account by me thinking that I have. The question is no longer whether I have it or not. The question is, how do I make it work? Most people, when you say consciously, say, I can't afford it, but guess what? You've put a brake. How can you act on something that you can't? See the challenge there? In reality, you cannot act on something that you said, I can't. I can't do this. So how are you going to act on it? But when you say, how can I do it? It opens a window that there is a room to do it. And your mind opens itself up and start processing information that says you can. And you start engaging yourself in such manner until it becomes. And that's why that framework kind of guides you. And when I realized, I said, okay, no. My statement has always been I can't, so I've been cutting corners looking to learn by myself. And I realized that was not producing the result. That means I was not loving myself. Because to love yourself is to think of yourself of those things that are good. So eventually I said, I can. And I did it with a smile, I can. When I did that, everything else changed. I found a way and I took the course. I took the class and I launched my first course within less than a month. That's the magic, the power of learning how to love. So you can build a better relationship with yourself, with money. There are many principles and teaching that you're told, but when you master this, the rest becomes tools. They are no longer the holy grail of things. They are just tools. And you're going to allow yourself to be guided to the right tool that works for you. The reason there are so many tools is because each and every tool works with a different person based on where they are mentally. And once you understand that, once you start working from within, you don't apply the tools. Love is not envious. Love does not even mirror other people. You do it from your point of view. It is told that the Lord said, my ways are more than you finding out. That means there's so many ways God can make things possible for you. You just have to allow Him. And how do you do it? Love yourself. And how do you love yourself? Use my framework, the 3I framework. And how do you get to know more about the 3I framework? Simple. In the bottom, there is a link. I have a challenge that I put together. It's a summit, in fact, there where I talk a lot more about this framework and how it relates with the scriptures. All you have to do, just click the link below and you will find that program where you will gain that understanding you need in much deeper. And actually, I have a plague. In the program, I am breaking down things into pieces. What do I mean? I take what the first I idealize, we are breaking down from the scripture point of view. In fact, I'm using Leviticus 25 verse 1 all the way to verse 14. That's the kind of a map I'm using to explain where, and that Leviticus is a very interesting scripture. So where I'm telling you where the I fits and how it applies in different scenarios of your life. And then when you take from idealize, how do you move and what the scripture supports that? You move into introduce what the scripture says. In the book of Leviticus, it says you have to enter the land. He said, when you enter the land, what a beautiful expression. That means you have to enter the land. You have to identify yourself with the thing you want to be. Otherwise, as long as you're not going to enter the land, the promise that was given cannot be fulfilled. The jubilee cannot happen in your life. Where restoration happens, freedom is attained. And in that seminar, I'm talking about how I apply the same principle for myself. I discover that actually I send myself to prison. And when I discover that, I'm like, oh shit. And then I said, then I can get myself out of prison. So before my time came to maturity, I was able to let go by using the same principle. The same principle. The gates of prison were open. They didn't open like there was a shake here like in the scriptures. No. I was called. They said, you got to sign. You got to get out of here fast. I said, what happened? They said, don't ask. You got to sign. You got to get out of here fast. And I signed. I did my fingerprint. That day that I was supposed to get out of there fast, I got out of there fast. I was not done with my sentence. Why? 3I framework made its mark. You might be in a prison of financial, you have confined financially. You don't have the freedom to do and live life the way you want. It could be love. You cannot enjoy love. I'm telling you, love is the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. Sometimes I'm looking at my wife, I'm like, oh my God, how did I get lucky? But I keep reminding myself, no, Alpha, you're not lucky. You're applying the work. You're doing the work. You're doing the work, Alpha. Congratulations for doing the work. Keep doing it, because the more you do it, the better it gets. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this and I'm having some fun. I'm loving each and every moment. But the truth is, if it wasn't for that framework, things would have been quite different for me. But because of the framework, I was able to change my life. And I've told you the framework. And if you look at most of my other videos, you're going to find I've told you. And I'm talking into detail, a little bit more details. But the actual how, the technique behind on how you idealize something and know that you've done it right. So you can overcome that syndrome that people have, that I'm not enough, it's not for me, I can't do this. Because that's the syndrome people have. And billions of people are suffering from that, so you're not alone. People, I don't deserve this. Or I want to do God's plan. Do you know what God's plan is? Most of people say, oh, I want God's will to be fulfilled in my life. Give me a break. How can you say you want God's will to be fulfilled in your life while in the scriptures it tells you what is God's will and what's God's plan for you? It says, my plans, I know the plans I have for you. The plans to prosper you and not to harm you. So how do you end up being harmed? Where you are feeling and living out of abundance, where you are deprived, you are struggling, you are straining. You find yourself in unpredictable environment, uncertainty surround you. Why? I'm not saying I don't find it. I'm experiencing it. But each and every time I experience it, I use the very simple principle, the law that I've come to understand, this framework. And it works like a magic. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. It's not because the process itself is longer. It's because it takes a little bit longer for me to conform myself, to transform my mind. I'm so much conformed by the reality, the circumstances, and it takes a little bit longer for me. So it is on me. That's why loving yourself is the secret, because you're realizing everything begins with you. And Jesus said, no one can take my life unless I lay it down. So it is true for you. As I've said, if you are serious about changing your life, then you have a way out to change. You want to establish you with the base where you can start learning how to to manage your mood, your thoughts, so that you can pursue everything else with open-minded, with fullness, with joy, and each and everything comes to you easy. When I started learning how to understand the scriptures, I struggled, it was strenuous. But then I discovered that I have to love myself first. When I love myself first, these understanding, you give me any scriptures, I will read it and I'll look at it and suddenly my mind just opens up. The spiritual understanding and awareness opens. And I'm like, oh my God. And you'll find me smiling and you know, I got it. And my mom said, oh, you have a gift. I said, Mom, don't repeat that word. I don't have a gift. It is natural. Each one of us have that capacity. I am just demonstrating my capacity to endure longer than normal in this area, that I'm willing to think and imagine myself. I have a greater understanding of the scriptures. That's where I started. And I will imagine myself teaching and everything else where I didn't even know how to. I've never been in front of the camera than the one that, the picture that was taken to me when we were getting married and maybe when we were with the kids. But I've never really taken a video of myself. But I started imagining myself as that person. I hated my voice. I didn't want to speak. The first time I did, I'm like, oh my God, I sound so bad. And maybe I do, but I don't care. I am speaking something that adds value in somebody's life. It doesn't matter whether my voice is good or not. It's not the voice, it is the message. And guess what? Every day I'm getting better. This might not be my best message because I'm learning how to, now I've took this course and they had a framework that they use. So I'm learning to apply that framework in a manner that's going to produce the results I'm looking for. And with time, I know I have. So you too can change and transform your life consistent with your interest if you apply. Again, the link is below. If you're serious about changing your life, but the cost of not doing so is you remaining the same place you have been last year. There are people that I've gone for 9 years when I went to prison. There are people that I came back from prison. They are living the same lifestyle, the same problem, the same challenges, because they have not been willing to apply themselves. They are living longer than normal in a particular frame of mind. They are demonstrating their love. It's not what they say that they love. Oh, if I would love to change, then change. All you gotta do is just live in a particular framework and you will change. Thank you very much. And until then, my friend, I hope I'll see you on the other side. But otherwise, keep doing you, and you will get the results you have been getting. True change comes after transformation.